Hello and welcome to the BlockApps industry meeting. I am Sid Siefkin and I'll be helping organize the meeting and moving through this presentation today. So we're glad you're joined. We're going to give just a couple of moments for others to join in, but certainly wanted to welcome you here. The work that we do here is to really introduce the concepts of blockchain, being able to provide the context from an industry standpoint. In an effort to do that, what we've done is not only have we included some of the good information that we've provided from a BlockApps and a TraceHarvest perspective, but we also wanted to bring in some industry partners that have the opportunity to really kind of share the wider ecosystem. And I think that's exactly where we're at today. So I think with that, formally, we'll go ahead and get started. I wanted to share with you a little bit of the details around Q&A. So as we start today, you'll notice down at the bottom, you'll see a note for Q&A. Feel free to put those into the chat session there on Q&A. Caleb will help address that and be able to get some of those question and answers addressed at the end of this presentation. In preparation for today, I wanted to just kind of share with the audience the types of companies that have an interest in this blockchain ecosystem. We have a number of folks that have registered for this event. We certainly had a wide breadth of organizations, from seed and input providers, fertilizer companies, ag technology companies, software companies that work on farm management systems, tech providers along the way. So, with that, certainly welcome to you all, and we're looking forward to having a good exchange of ideas across these industry players. As we prepared for this, you may have noticed when we registered for this event, we asked you what your ideal use case was for blockchain. We put together this word cloud that really captured some of the essence of what everybody was interested in. And in big and bold, supply chain traceability, being able to trace, tracking, being able to connect data to markets and grain logistics. So all of these things are areas that we're really impressed with. I think it fits our presentation very well today. So with that, I'll go ahead and get to the formal agenda. What we have in store for you today is an update from Stan Dotson, who's going to provide his overview from really the vision of the agricultural marketplace and where we're moving from there. Next, we'll be joined by Bushel, that is doing some agricultural data aggregation and really marketing around agricultural commodities. Whenever we have those commodities, it's highly logistics, and we're having the movement of those from point A to point B. Roger is a company that will address some of its uniqueness in the space that they do to be able to track movement of goods from the field, from the farmer into elevators and processors. We'll have the bare use case for seed traceability, and then some Q&A at the end of this presentation. Before we get started in the formal agenda, I wanted to introduce Kieran James Lugan, and he is our founder and CEO, and he'll provide us an overview of BlockApps and the way we look at the marketplace. Kieran?
Thank you, Sid, and I'll be brief as we want to get into the industry content. I see upwards of 50 participants now, so thanks everybody for joining. Great team and industry effort in putting this together today. So very briefly on us, we help industries, businesses work better together. And we do this with what we call blockchain business networks. So we're very focused on the enterprise, so nothing as far as cryptocurrency for us, no completely public data, no currency fluctuations, all that sort of thing, with a deep focus on the 3 Ps, which are we call privacy, permissioning, and performance. So early on in the history of the business, we realized that blockchain technology itself was distinct from the currency aspects that you saw with Bitcoin and then Ethereum at the time. We've been around since 2015, which for a blockchain business makes us ancient. And very early, we picked the enterprise set of applications. So, in 2015, we kind of created our product, went on to partner with Microsoft actually at that time to sort of create this whole category of blockchain for business. And through the years have really learned a lot and put that back into our product from the set of enterprise customers and applications you have, some of which you see represented on the slide here today. So in the last few years, we've really started to verticalize. And so next slide, please. One of our major initiatives is, of course, TraceHarvest. That's what you all are here for. TraceHarvest is actually many years in the making. So we've been engaged with the folks at Bayer Crop Science for several years and been in production for several years, really building out a system first for the needs of Bayer and its ecosystem, aimed at tracking, the full life cycle of agricultural products, starting with seeds primarily. So this effort, again, it's been ongoing, and we realized in the last, let's say, year and a half that it was ready to transition into an industry play. So rather than sole focus on Bayer and its ecosystem, Bayer would actually see more value if we open the system up to the wider network of participants, even potentially including some of Bayer's competitors, who you've seen on the logo slide are present on the call. So really what we're aiming to achieve here is a standard industry solution that everyone can use, again, combining the core seed and other crop input information all the way through the growth cycle onto the processor, the CPG, the retailer. And next slide, and I believe we're back to Sid.
Yeah, I think that was a great overview, Kieran, so I appreciate that. One of the things that I think you may recall is that we really made the introduction to the TraceHarvest Network in Q4 of 2020. And at that point, we really focused on the seed traceability use case. Today, we are having the opportunity to look at the wider vision. We know that the agricultural marketplace is a wide ecosystem made up of various companies and organizations that have an interest in the overall success of agriculture. In our presentation today, we've been able to expand beyond the bare use case for seed to include Bushel for grain marketing and merchandising by having connections down at the grower level, and also with Roger, who's very innovative in their transportation application and being able to have traceability of goods as they move in the country. But this vision says there are other players that are important to us, right? Additional precision ag companies that have the opportunity to capture information in the field and be able to provide that to a blockchain solution. Equipment manufacturers, input providers, also regulatory agencies, USDA, FDA, et cetera. And so we're very excited to start with this build out. And, I think there's great opportunity for us all to participate and become more functional with multi-party data exchange. Let's take a next step into the presentation where we will introduce Stan Dotson. He's going to join us by video today and kind of give his overview of where he sees the ag market today.
As Sid mentioned, my name is Stan Dotson. I have more than 37 years in the ag industry working for Monsanto and then Bayer. I spent most of my time in R&D and the last 8 years in IT focused on the digital transformation of agriculture. I'm here today as a senior industry advisor for BlockApps because I'm excited about the potential of the TraceHarvest platform to transform agricultural supply chains. I want to thank each of you for your time to attend this session and thank Sid and BlockApps for the opportunity to share a few thoughts on the future of agriculture. Modern ag is providing tremendous innovation to our food production systems, yet at the same time is facing a trust crisis. Innovation has been nearly nonstop over the past decade. We've had trait innovation for weed and pest management, and gene editing is just arriving and will unlock a broad portfolio of new traits. Precision ag technology has introduced more efficient and sustainable agronomic practices and is now introducing drones and robots to the farm. Digital transformation is creating the data to optimize food production. And we're seeing innovation on the demand side. Alt foods, for example, are generating new supply chain opportunities for growers. But we can all admit that this rapid innovation is creating trust challenges. Urban growth means fewer people know where their food comes from and how it's produced. The reaction is for consumers to favor local or known producers. We have high-profile safety concerns, food recalls, product safety lawsuits, delayed registrations and deregistrations. And COVID-related supply chain disruptions have exposed weaknesses in misalignment of business interests within our own ag supply chain. In my mind, this all boils down to the need for greater collaboration and connectivity across the food supply chain. But connectivity is not so easy. You see, there's very real challenges facing a connectivity solution to ag supply chains. We operate in a very highly fragmented environment with thousands of participants. This is both a strength to have local decision-making, but a weakness from the lack of information sharing and coordination. We have misaligned business interests where individuals and businesses can be seen putting their own interests ahead of the system that supports the end consumer. There's inefficiencies, sub-optimized logistics, over and under management of risk is still common. And there is no common digital platform to enable collaboration. So what is happening? What are the emerging trends? Well, certainly we're seeing back integration of supply chains. Companies like Walmart, Amazon Fresh, food processors, meat producers, taking the challenges into their own hands, raising questions on the terms by which traditional ag companies will operate in the future. We're also seeing some shortening of supply chains, local farms, vertical farms, closed loop production. But these may not include your business, nor the vast majority of agriculture. And of course, we see consumer backlash, irrational preferences to free from everything, and cautious approach by governments. All of these make your business less predictive. So how can you and your business be more proactive and lead during this time of rapid innovation? Start building your ecosystem and collaborate. Align your business interests with one or more partners to deliver a predictable service of products that customers will pay a premium. Adopt a digital platform like TraceHarvest that connects you and your partners and enables shared accountability. Leverage data to start optimizing processes to reduce costs, maintain quality, reduce waste, and improve sustainability. Agree to be more transparent to enhance planning and risk for all parties. Embrace traceability to create trust and manage safety. I see TraceHarvest as a flexible platform that addresses these needs for your business and enables multiple use cases. I was part of the team at Bayer that worked with BlockApps to enable TraceHarvest for a product stewardship use case. Here we were tracing products forward through the supply chain. But the platform is equally powerful for integration of your supply chain. You can also use it as a trusted information source with your collaborators. You can use it to certify products such as residue-free, organic, sustainable, and others. And it's ideally suited for carbon credit data validation and tracking. I'm sure one or more of these use cases will apply to your business, and you may have other use cases as well. TraceHarvest is a powerful platform that can be used to better connect your business and agriculture. And I'm excited to be working with you and BlockApps to enable your use case. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Sid and the team to share more about TraceHarvest and answer any questions.
Very good. Thanks to Stan for providing that update and overview. A lot of use cases there that he calls out that I think are all relevant and top of mind. Next up, we have Jake with Bushel. We'd like to certainly thank Bushel for their participation today and allow them to give an overview of the work that they do. So with that, Jake, please offer your comments here.
All right. Thank you, Sid, and thank you to the BlockApps team. We're excited to be here. So hi to everybody joining. My name's Jake, co-founder, CEO at Bushel, based in the great city of Fargo, North Dakota. We are here to help grain buyers, their producers, and processors and CPGs do better business together. We've been, over the last 4 years after launching the Bushel platform, focused on digitizing the workflows and helping these companies more efficiently buy their grain with the farmer, give the farmer the digital tools they need to do business together, and also standardizing the data itself. So our vision is to connect and enhance this grain industry through what we call digital infrastructure, where one of the main things that differentiates Bushel from just about every other solution prior is our solution can integrate with basically the 15 major ERP systems that the grain industry runs in the United States, in Canada, and looking at South America next. What we can do is our customer can say yes to the platform. We can deploy it on their existing infrastructure. It pulls things into the cloud and is able to serve up not just a one-to-one to the facility, but also to their hundreds or thousands, or in this case, tens of thousands of farmers accessing the platform today. What it does in a basic sense for the farmer is they can see scale tickets in their grain contracts. They can see their settlement information. They can initiate an electronic signature and sign. They can initiate a grain offer now with the platform. And of course, the fun part about an ecosystem is they can also tie that information into other tools. So whether it's their farm management software or looking at accounting integrations, Bushel has the ability to offer that through our web services and APIs, and some of those connectivity pieces are available today. So we have 1,700 facilities around the US and Canada live on the platform. We'll hit 2,000 pretty soon, where farmers deliver their grain physically. So we call it grain origination. And we have over 42,000 farms on the platform today. So those are unique logged in users of the farm. And we think it's one of the biggest networks in agriculture today. So next slide, if you don't mind. So thinking about this ecosystem and where we play, one of the things we've been doing is, as we've made these integrations possible with these grain facilities and allowing them to do more business with their farmer in a digital way, we've been able to realize a standard. So we have what we would consider a standard scale ticket, where you deliver to the facility. Now we have an understanding of what those metrics are in the US and different parts of the US. Turns out prior to what we're doing, nobody has an agreement on what a scale ticket should look like. They're all over the place. And so we've been able to come up with a model that works for our customer base. And then also we think for the broader industry. We also have the same for grain contracts and settlements. We have over 8 billion bushels with a B of grain flowing through our platform in the US and in Canada. So the total is significant. It's not no longer a small account of what's happening from a grain flow perspective. It's a humongous number. And we see about 5 to 6 billion of that is origination. So when you measure the USDA's numbers, we look at our origination volume versus what the USDA says this country does. We're at 6 or 7 billion against a 23 billion bushel number. So we're making progress. Our goal is to have a majority of the US grain origination on our platform over the next few years. We think we're going to get there pretty quick. So we're excited about that. Next slide. Just to help you see where we come in here. We talked about the network effect. Our position, we think, is to be the leading digital infrastructure provider. So you think about the connectivity between one company and their ERP system and the next. It's not just about how the farmer interacts from the engagement with the supply chain, but also that initial buyer is typically not the final user of that product, that grain or whatever's coming off the field. Typically, they're selling down to a processing center or some facility, a mill, an ethanol plant. And so with Bushel, when both of those facilities are on our platform, we enable the ability for those companies to do a more effective business with each other. Traditionally, a company would spend a week or two, they would send a PDF or a paper update to the facility that they bought that grain from to help them settle out their transactions with each facility. With Bushel, we can do it multiple times a day, and we can do it in real time. And so our solution becomes a much broader supply chain opportunity than just between the farmer and the facility as we started our product. And so our opportunity with TraceHarvest is, how can we be a data contributor to the blockchain? So we know the blockchain is useful in a lot of different ways. We know that the ability to follow along with the flow of grains is important. But if you don't have that initial entry point into the supply chain pushed into the chain, there may be no value in following that. So Bushel's job here is to be a participant there, to allow our customers at their request to push into something like the TraceHarvest blockchain and participate in the flow. So we can tell you the quality metrics, we can tell you how much was delivered by which truck, by which farm. That's really important information as it enters the supply chain and where it's going next. So that's our opportunity to help and partner, create more trust between these parties. Obviously, removing manual entry and a lot of that paperwork that's happening today. It's just a huge improvement from where we're at. So last slide is just a little bit about how we fit in the process. So our mobile tool, Bushel Mobile, and our web application allow the farmer themselves to interact with the grain buyer. They see all their business together. It comes about not as the Bushel app, but as Schooler's app and Poet Ethanol's grain application. You see these in the marketplace. It's all on our SaaS platform, but they each get their own offering to the grower. The grower can, of course, aggregate that data into a farm management software, et cetera. But the useful tool is between the one-to-one relationship of the buyer and the farmer. the grain buyer is using our platform in more than one way. So they have the producer engagement. They also have their messaging platform, their electronic signature, and now their grain offer management happening on our tool. They can post their bids. They can do all the things that a grain facility wants to do to interact with the customer. Of course, the processor shared a little bit about their engagement. If they're buying direct from the farmer, like a poet does, they'll have their own tool for the farmer, but also the processor can help facilitate these engagements with the buyers they're working with that are on the commercial side. So there's an opportunity there that we've been completing, we call Bushel fulfillment for those companies. And then the CPG engagement, they've got the platform, but more so they're going to be using our web services and reporting mechanisms to help understand the flow of grain that's coming to their facilities for final production, whether it's for ingredients or other. We can help to tie that together. And of course, with TraceHarvest being involved in this, the ability to understand that flow all the way back to the farmer is important. So we think that's the big upside here, is helping make that possible, not just in traceability, but sustainability, not just for carbon, but a whole lot of other programs are going to be possible. And I'll say one last thing, Bushel, we hope that we can be what we would call the highway to deploying these programs at scale. We touch almost 50,000 farmers now between the US and Canada. We'll be in South America in the coming years. And our ability to interact with the farmer in a digital way is unique to the industry. There's engagement on a daily, hourly basis with the farmer. To roll out these programs and opportunities is going to be something that I think Bushel can help us. So I'll leave it with that and maybe open it again to the Q&A side. You know, the questions that we will get to, we want to understand what are there questions about this challenge that we think we're solving for, any feedback on what we could be doing and be more helpful in. Are there data integrations that we should be doing? We're working on field IDs and connecting to the field itself through various partners, but there's other things to be done. And then if there's opportunities in international expansion. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Sid, for giving us the opportunity to share.
Great, Jake. Thank you so much for that overview. Very exciting to understand that new level of digitalization at the farm level. One of the things that we knew, you talked a little bit about CPG companies, and a lot of times when they're sourcing very specific products, perhaps they are contract grown products, there's always this opportunity to say, okay, well, we know we've got some on-farm storage, but we've got this transportation of getting product from the farm or from an elevator into a processor or a CPG company. And really to try to answer the question of, do you maintain visibility from a blockchain perspective in that? We've invited Roger to come in and talk about their application, whereby they've done great work with digitizing not only the transportation work orders per se, but some additional information along with that. So I'd like to introduce Jeff here and let him provide you with an update on Roger and the applications that they are working with in this ecosystem. Jeff?
Yeah, thanks, Sid. And thanks to everybody over at TraceHarvest for allowing us to present. Roger, for those of you that are not aware of us, we are a digital freight ecosystem, and our role in the industry is to provide a neutral platform for sharing between the shipper and the carrier. And the economics behind that are this: we have a low-cost administrative model and visibility, and transportation affects all parts of all of the commodity life cycle, and it creates visibility for us on the supply chain. As the hauls increase and our network increases, there's potential upside. And like every good presentation, your dog has to weigh in with his argument on the backside of this all too. So give me one. All right. So let me give you a little explanation of Roger's digital freight ecosystem. First, you have to understand that Roger has reach outs to both producers, carriers, shippers, and processors. So in effect, what we're doing is with lack of a better word, Uberizing the movements between each of those groups. And you think about the way that happens. There's a lot of administration that happens between each of those groups. One, the the load has to be scheduled. You have to understand where it's going to be picked up. And in our platform, it gives you a very precise geolocation for that to happen. There's a lot of administration work because the tickets that are created at the origination and the destination both have to be captured. And then the visibility is in today's market is really low, and you really don't get a chance to see that. In our platform, we're capturing all of this in digital format. So, so for inputs, when they're delivering bulk loads to producers, we're capturing the movements of those inputs either to the distributor or to the producer directly. For producers, we're capturing the visibility of the load between the farm in a very precise manner all the way to the elevator, and we can even track where inside of an elevator physical footprint gets dropped off. And then all of this has a pricing model to it. So the longer you haul, the more expensive it is. And so that affects the entire ecosystem. And if we can perfect this network across the board, the economics of the entire equation change, because we now have a greater reach with more shippers and more carriers getting to know each other and moving at a much more effective and efficient model. So one thing I might say too, and if I can kind of relate to the way in which the rest of the presenters are going to demonstrate, the way that that we contribute data to the supply chain is, you think about it maybe in correlation to the chain of custody. Every physical move has to have a chain of custody. And so Roger, with a permanent record of where things have moved, keeps that chain of custody intact amongst all the parties. So let me talk a little bit about the digital freight ecosystem, and I hope we have enough time, and we're going to show a little bit of a clip on this on the solution in action. So it really is powered by it's a simple mobile app in different varieties. Producers have mobile apps, the drivers have mobile apps, carriers have mobile apps, and then anyone who's a shipper has a command center that get to see all this stuff in motion at one single point in time in real time. So all of these movements are aided by a machine learning and AI engine to help make the best economics work. And it also helps that your truck drivers sometimes get to find exactly where they need to go, and they don't hunt and peck to find the end origin destinations. I think across the board, it's really important to get to understand that when you transport the physical product, you absolutely need a proof of the origin and destination, and you need long-term proof and visibility. So ultimately, when those units are consumed by your consumers, you've got it all the way locked all the way to the beginning. So what TraceHarvest does is it takes this digital record of all the movements that have happened, and it consumes all of that and attaches it to the entire supply chain, and everything that we're doing to facilitate the movements, the scales, the grades, everything captured in real time can be fed immediately into the chain, where it creates a visibility not on a delayed cycle but on an immediate cycle. And I think that's new in our industry. Cool. So now we're gonna kind of show you a little bit of this in action. So I want to kind of tell you what it is. I'm going to give you a demonstration that shows really from different points of view how the Roger ecosystem works in unison with the different parties involved in making things happen in the supply chain. First, we're going to look at this from the shipper's point of view. It's hard to show. There's live data. All the little green dots on this map are origins where we're gonna need to pick up either from a farmer or from another elevator. The little trucks on the map, and there can be many, one or many of them, get routed to the very precise location for one of the origins. And the app, the pins are determined by your producer. Your producer has an app. They drop a pin where they want you to pick up, and it can be very precise. Like, I need to go on the west gate and go through and meet me on the southeast corner. and it'll show that, and it'll show the destination and any special instructions that may need to happen. So we're facilitating what used to be lots of phone calls, lots of texts, lots of emails and instructions. We're color coding the markers on that map. Then, so when we look at what the producer sees, the producer says, okay, here's my field. I set up the boundaries of my field, and I've kind of located it and I've named it. I can have multiple fields. I in this case, I just have one, but I can tag it, and I can say, for this field, this is my general profile. I can change it to the satellite view and start picking out the corners of the field or where the fence lines are. I can blow that up, and I'm setting that up so that everyone knows what my field looks like. In this scenario, your farmer can drop a pin wherever they want, and they will know kind of what the rate associated with that movement is. They'll contact whoever they're going to sell it to, and they're going to say, I'm going to do that. Then the next step is we're going to move to the trucker's point of view. The trucker says, okay, I've got my instruction from the producer. I can hit the start load button, and it's going to process my most economic route to get from where I'm at to where the field is and where the destination is. I can find out, what my haul rate is, what I'm being priced at. If I'm a driver, I may not be able to see the information on the economics, but I certainly can see it for the rest of it. If you're a shipper, you're going to be able to, see this whole thing in action. I can see what the farmer has just requested. I fulfilled that request with a truck headed their direction. I've issued a truck load card, and that trucker is seeing me dispatch that load over to them. I've got all the details of what's being picked up and who I'm contacting, and I can communicate in real time around this. For the trucker, when they hit the start load button, everyone in the queue, farmer, shipper, and trucker, all can see where the truck is, where they're going to be routed to. So you can see this tape. Once the dispatch has happened, that truck drives to the origin location, and then when they get to the origin location, I can see exactly what happens when they get there, including where they stop, how long it takes them to pick up the load, and you can see in our environment, it actually changes the icon. So the icon turns green, meaning they've picked up that load, and then they start taking that load to the destination. This whole time, I'm kind of getting on the left-hand side an ETA of when it's happening. I've got a very definitive mark. Now the trucker drives 500 miles an hour to the end destination. That's sped up. That's not really the case. We hope that our truckers aren't speeding. But when they arrive at the end destination, what I've done is I've now captured the tickets. If it's a electronic ticket and it comes through the system, I've got it that way. If it's a destination that only does, let's say, paper tickets, what the trucker can do is they take a picture of that paper ticket. I've got all the attributes, all the testing, and all the bill of ladings captured when they arrive at the destination. All that is immediately consumed, shared with the carrier, the trucker, the shipper, and the farmer. And so interesting dynamic is that the farmers, if they have recurring loads happening and they can see an instant testing criteria, it's if they happened to see something that didn't look right, maybe the moisture content was too high, or something happened that they didn't expect, they can put a halt to the loads and say, we're going to wait a couple days until the field dries out. So there's great decision making that can be made when you have immediate real-time visibility. I just want to show you a quick demonstration of kind of how that works in action. Now, to kind of complete the loop on what Roger does. Roger is the freight ecosystem between the input, the farm, the crop, and the elevator. So anything that goes in a bulk haul, Roger consumes that. It creates real-time information, this digital ticket. For our users, there's no technology really to install. It's all hosted in the cloud, and it's mobile technology that they just download on the app stores. It creates the permanent record for the commodity, the shipment origin, and the destination to a hyper accurate degree. So I can see if there's multiple grain elevators, they went to the third grain elevator and they unloaded there. It's creating this chain of trust across the board. And as the market gets more expansive, the economics improve. We make better choices about who to send, which carriers to send to which location, and which carriers that might be inefficiently hauling and using too many miles to maybe change that dynamic and make a better decision about that. So this is complete visibility, and it's fed into all the records are fed into the chain. So maybe just to kind of to tie out this part of it, the basic question is, what are the challenges that our shippers and our carriers are trying? What are they trying to solve? Economic. So I think this would be a question for the group. Do you have feedback on how you would see that digital freight ecosystem used in a broader sense? And really, I'll leave it at this. For many of our groups, this is digitizing an entire transaction set that's been the same for 50 years. It's sometimes hard to get your mindset around. I would tell you the best way to do this would be to run a proof of concept, try it out with one of your known carriers. If you're hauling in bulk, try a few loads, test it, understand where you're going to, how it needs to integrate with your existing systems, and ultimately how it needs to integrate with TraceHarvest to create that visibility. If you do that a few times, I think just like other digital technologies, they become the preferred method, and I think that's the start of the story.
Jeff, thank you for that. Great overview. Enjoyed the video of the activities of transportation. I think that really highlights it well. Transportation is central and very critical to the entire agricultural system. And, by being able to record that chain of custody, even as that product is on the road, I think is quite informative and certainly new technology for us. And again, because transportation is so important, the delivery into the farm marketplace is critical as well, right? Even the delivery of seed to a retailer and onto a grower. And so next up, we'll have Victor speak to you about the seed traceability work that TraceHarvest is built around, joined by Abba to give her perspective on how the implementation from a Bayer perspective has been really customized to fit their needs. So with that, Abba and Victor, please share your information.
Sure. I am Victor Wong. I am founder and chief product officer at BlockApps, and I've worked very closely with Bayer Crop Science over the past couple of years. And we're going to dig into a little bit about one of the use cases that better seed traceability unlocks, which is stewardship. And I can't think of a better person to join me in that than Abba. Abba, could you do a quick intro?
Thanks, Victor. I'm Abha Khandelwal. Hello, everyone. And I am Data Strategy Lead in Product Supply Quality at Bayer Crop Science. I'm very happy to be here with you all this morning and working with Victor and team from the very beginning. And let's get going. Great.
So we have a little bit of a world premiere that we want to give everyone. Thank you for joining us. And we want to give you a taste of something that is actually happening tomorrow. Tomorrow, we are announcing a large marketing campaign that we are doing with AWS and Bayer about TraceHarvest. So we want to give you a sneak preview of that right now.
Our mission is health for all, hunger for none. And Bayer Crop Science's role in that is to help farmers provide safe, affordable, and sustainable food for everyone to eat. We're able to help farmers connect with consumers who don't just want to know that their food is healthy, nutritious, and sustainable, but be able to verify that at every step along the way.
Our mission is to enable typically businesses to transact with each other in a more seamless way via blockchain business networks.
working with BlockApps and AWS, we were able to create this digitalized traceability solution where we could get real actionable information in real time. For the first time, BlockApps is helping us and companies like us trace seed from sale to distribution to planting to harvest to processing.
Bayer's very technologically sophisticated, as well as has experts across the map as far as their business process. They're the leader in seed and crop protection products R&D globally.
With the help of AWS and BlockApps, Bayer Crop Science is helping farmers to bring a safe, affordable, and sustainable food supply to the world.
So one exciting side note about our partnership with AWS and TraceHarvest is that AWS data centers are mostly carbon neutral. So unlike other blockchains that expend a lot of energy, we believe by working with AWS, we can make TraceHarvest carbon neutral, and perhaps one of the first carbon neutral blockchains. So one of the things that we want to explore is with traceability is it kind of unlocks all these higher level use cases. You've heard Stan kind of talk about it in his video. These use cases are things like better food safety, improved sustainability requirements, and improved stewardship of IP protected products. So we want to give you a deeper dive into what that looks like on TraceHarvest today and how that improved traceability actually improves compliance and stewardship. So one of the things that is already built into TraceHarvest is this idea of incorporating best practices developed by industry standard organizations. One example of an organization that we've already been talking to is Excellence Through Stewardship, who has created and aggregated a bunch of best practices across the seed industry on how to manage stewarded products. And these include things like product integrity, data standards, responsible management, and also audited reporting. And what we've done at TraceHarvest is to incorporate these standards into the product itself. So we can easily provide these standards and provide this reporting in effectively an automated way. And these standards, the TraceHarvest is also customizable. So it can include other aspects of the entire process. Things like insect resistant management, advanced incident response, and product retirement. Abba, do you want to talk a little bit more about how Bayer is using TraceHarvest and stewardship?
Yeah, absolutely. At Bayer Crop Science, we have used TraceHarvest for its core capability from traceability perspective. And if you go to the next slide, actually, we have followed very similar model to provide our perspective and who are the persona and where we have used this particular network. So this is a very simplistic view where we have tracked the seed going from us to our dealer partner to the grower and finally elevator. And what we realized that instead of doing the physical tracking of our material, we can actually track our physical material through the digital asset and digital system. Each of these persona, they have a particular digital system in place. For example, growers are utilizing the leading farm management software, Climate Field View. They are using it for increasing productivity on their field. But at the same time, there is information that gives us the traceability information. And you already heard from Jake about how Bushel is partnering and the capabilities. It was a great overview from both Jake and Jeff this morning. That is a good thing that there are digitalization across the partner network and we have those digital systems, but unfortunately, these systems don't talk to each other. And if we need any information, it takes a long, long time. So that's where blockchain comes into the picture, where we can create the APIs between these existing digital systems and bring the relevant data for a given protocol on this blockchain so that we have full visibility and our partners have the visibility needed for that particular product. And once we have built this, we are really able to solve that pain point that we don't need people to travel with the seed material and capturing that information on a paper trail. So we can remove all of that manual effort. And second part is this solution is scalable. And you heard great examples from both Jake and Jeff about extensible. So I am showing you the part of the chain where we have experimented and piloted and utilized this TraceHarvest, and there are other components. So this platform provides that opportunity for us to use it for multiple different use cases. And we definitely are continuing to drive the digital transformation. Back to you, Victor.
Thanks, Abha. So let's dive into the application itself and kind of show how all these kind of pieces come together in the actual application. So what you're seeing now is a compliance view. We're taking all the traceability, the same traceability data that we've acquired from all these separate digital systems, but we're simplifying it to kind of focus on the compliance use case. And in each of these, this is an important step that a compliance manager would have to look at and kind of manage across many different growers. Abha, I know you've done this, so maybe you can talk a little bit about this view.
Yeah, absolutely. This is very interesting because once you think about these traceability platform or system, there are multiple different persona or people who are looking at the information, and we should be able to customize it for the need of that particular person. Because from compliance manager perspective, who is responsible to really make sure that all the requirements as per the protocol are being followed, this is a great visual to go to, where you have visually these dials to say what are those different control points, and it's pretty customizable. You can add or delete a tile as per your protocol, and also see where things are throughout the season.
Yes, and in each of these DAOs, as you can see, like the blue kind of represents the agreements, the contracts themselves, but the green dials here indicate, the fields that have already complied with the individual requirement. So for first planting date, you can see, they have 63% of the agreements, but only 16% of the fields have actually started planting by the first planting date. And if you click into one of these dials, then you get more detailed information on a per agreement and per grower level. So Abha, you want to touch on this a little bit and how we have these different views of complete and incomplete?
Yeah. As we are continuing this journey about digitalization, I think this is very powerful, because if things are completed and they are following the protocol, as from the compliance manager perspective, there is not immediate action. So they can very quickly select things that are completed or things that are incomplete. And just by switching those two tabs up on the top, you can see, and if things are not complete, compliance manager is able to take quick action for why it's not complete. They can connect with the relevant stakeholder and ask the question, what kind of assistance is needed or what's the barrier, and then resolve that pretty quickly.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And also, as you mentioned before, these DAOs are customizable. So, for example, if you wanted to include, for example, sustainability requirements or organic requirements, you could create a DAO for those too. And that's all built into the system itself. Now, I mentioned before, all this uses the existing data that we're pulling into power, all the other elements. So going back to, some of you may have seen this screen before. This goes back to the original kind of traceability use case that we focused on with TraceHarvest, where it starts from the agreements, and you can see the units committed on the contracts, and then units delivered to growers, units delivered to dealers, to growers, returns, units planted by growers, then bushels harvested and bushels received by processors. And in addition to that, you have information on the bottom about how everything is in the current growing season and the individual agreements themselves. Abha, you want to touch on the screen again a little bit?
Yeah, for today, we started from the compliance manager view, but this is, once you are able to get to the data, and it's not just the visual of the dashboard, but how blockchain is able to connect all of the data across different stakeholders so that we have full end-to-end visibility on this dashboard is very valuable. And that is, I always get excited seeing this view, that you have the full visibility in one common place, and also the ability to dive deeper from each and every individual agreement perspective.
That's great. And then over here on the right side, we have these recent agreements, the individual agreements themselves that Abha just mentioned, that we can dive into. And as you see here, it's basically reflecting the same kind of information we're seeing on a global level. So I want to kind of demonstrate that we can take the same data and show it in many different views for different personas, as Abba mentioned. And we can also aggregate data from all kinds of systems. So these events over here include data from things like the ERP system, from the precision ag system, from the processor system, and we want to incorporate things like Roger that would include elements of the transportation system, and also more data from Bushel. And we think that will give a richer picture of what is capable of the system. Abba, you want to touch on this a little bit?
You covered it really well, Victor. From our perspective, again and again, the customizable piece, because two crops are different, two protocols are different. And if we have to add anything additional, we have the opportunity. And in the world where we are living, we are going to see a lot more sensors and IoT tools and additional things come. But once we have this built, we have the ability to keep adding as per the need of our business processes.
Yeah, and I think that's really important as we talk about the stewardship compliance use case, because as we know, regulations are constantly changing. The Food Modernization Safety Act is in the final process of being ratified, and that will change a lot of these processes as we move forward too. So I'll just jump back into the presentation. So to kind of give you an overview, what we're using the blockchain for is to really aggregate this information from all these participants. And we're doing it in an automated manner by working with digital sources of information. And as we mentioned, from Bushel, from Roger, from things like Climate Field View, and also we can customize those integrations if there are particular ERP solutions or data sources that aren't listed here. And we'd love to get some more information about, what are the different integrations that we should explore. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, we're really proud to announce our major partnership with Amazon that will be formally announced tomorrow. So if you're interested in kind of learning more and becoming part of this overall network, you kind of have three options for you. One is you can become a member of the network directly. And for that, you can contact Sid. This is his email address. You can contact him directly. And we can talk about the different roles and different membership types that we have for different types of organizations. Secondly, you can expect a survey. We really want to tailor the content of these meetings to basically provide the maximum amount of value. We know your time is valuable, and so we want to make sure that we're providing the right content that is really going to help you and your business kind of drive it forward in terms of digitization. So expect a survey in your mailbox after this presentation, and we're planning the next meeting around late April 21. And then lastly, if you have an idea of a use case, for example, or you didn't see how your particular type of company can participate in the overall TraceHarvest Ag system, please get in touch. And we're happy to propose a working group and help you connect with others in the system who would be interested in either exploring that use case or working with you to kind of incorporate your ideas into the overall TraceHarvest network. And with that said, I'll hand it back to you.
Victor and Abba, thank you for that review of the seed traceability, stewardship, the flexibility of the TraceHarvest Network. Really enjoyed this information and being able to take that in. I know that there were a few questions that came in along the way, and so we'd be happy to entertain some of those questions now. Caleb, do you have a couple that you may have at the ready?
Yeah, and thank you all again for all your time. And like Victor said, we do want to respect your time as well. We've got about 6 minutes here left in the presentation, and still about 60 people participating in the webinar. A good handful of questions, and thank you to the participants also for typing some answers live as we went through. It's much appreciated there, but do want to just get to as many as we can in this amount of time. So I'll just put forth one first. It's from Paul Spencer at Corteva, and he asks, are there any end-to-end solutions being developed that would help farmers market genetically engineered grains? And specifically, could a farmer designate at delivery that his genetically engineered corn is not yet approved for the EU or an area like that? And so I'll leave that one maybe to Sid if you want to route it to someone. I see Jake and Kieran have also added some insight as well.
Yeah, I think that's great. Really good question in terms of designating endpoint delivery. And I think that's all part of the information around stewardship and ETS. And certainly that provision is capable of doing so, especially if you know in the contract of where you're going to have that endpoint delivery to. Victor, do you want to comment on how some of that endpoint delivery has been managed with the TraceHarvest Network?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things that, and I didn't show this in this particular demo, but one of the things where the TraceHarvest Network is, it starts, as we mentioned, from the seed source, and you really define a bunch of parameters about that seed. Now, that obviously includes things like the genetics, but it also includes like for stewardship use cases or managing, where is it regulatory approval? Where is it allowed to be transferred? And also handling of that product. And those become trackable events in the system over time.
Gotcha. Thank you guys very much. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Jake, based on your answer, or is it kind of covered?
I think you guys are covering it so far. It's good. I think it's pretty compelling, the use cases we have here, but there's a lot more work to be done. So I'm looking forward to hearing from others who want to participate with us on this.
All right, great. Thank you. And thank you, Paul, for your question. I'm going to switch over to just a quicker technical question, and then we've got more after that. It's from an anonymous attendee, but it's a good one. And Victor, it's along the lines of the point you were making with our new partnership with AWS about the environmental impact of using blockchain. The question is, there are some concerns with blockchain's impact on the environment when using proof of work algorithms due to the increased energy and use for computing. What is BlockApp's position on this, and what are the alternatives to proof of work?
It's a really great question. And so one of the alternatives, what we're talking about here is that what makes public blockchains and cryptocurrencies really so wasteful is that, this concept of mining that exists in the public blockchain, and it expends masses amounts of electricity. I heard the number recently that 0.2% of the overall world electrical use is being used to power the Bitcoin network. So from the BlockApps point of view, we don't use these kind of mining algorithms that are highly wasteful. We don't need to, because we basically permission our networks and we know who the participants are and make sure that their incentives are aligned to provide the best data. So we don't have these problems with energy usage. And in fact, as I mentioned before, we're working toward making our blockchains completely carbon neutral with AWS.
Great, thank you, Victor. Pretty clear clarification there. Looks like we got time for one or two more. So here's a question from Sam Bartz at the USDA. Sam, thanks for joining, and glad to see the USDA among all the peers here. Their question is about using this platform to translate to trade in African nations. They say there's a lack of reliable data for trade in Africa, and wondering what work is being done through our companies to fill that data gap. And then there's a follow-up question to it. How might you be able to format the app for cell phone use for nations that primarily access their internet through their phones? I think we saw a bunch of mobile apps and mobile designs here, so I'll leave it to you, Victor, to start, but please feel free to chime in, anyone.
Yeah, that sounds like the perfect opportunity to create a working group around that, because we'd love to kind of explore, we haven't done work in Africa yet, and we know there are specific challenges to that particular area that we'd love to explore and kind of get other participation to do. But principally, we've designed our system to interact with all kinds of systems, as you heard from Roger, which is primarily a mobile application, Jake, which is also mobile and desktop, and even pulling information from IoT devices themselves. So from our point of view, it wouldn't be difficult to extend it to, we even include, like, for example, text-based notifications already, but we could see a future where, we could incorporate inputs from text-based inputs as well. Anyone else want to add to that? Jake, maybe?
I think one of the challenges to make sure we're solving for is to not create too many places for the farmer to have to go to participate. And so when I mentioned earlier the highway comment, I mean a highway right to the phone for Bushel. That's what our focus has been, phone and web, but really we have a web solution and a mobile solution, and 90+% of usage is on mobile, no matter what the farmer's doing. And that is the truth in the US, and it's very much more the truth everywhere else in the world. And so our belief is that, yes, you have to serve them there, but you have to make the integration simple. So an example would be with Bear and Climate, for the farmer to be able to assign their field records right inside of a scale ticket without having to go out and get another tool and another tool. And all of in the background happening would be TraceHarvest is getting this information without the farmer having to prompt it all. And that's the right kind of experience that we want to see, I think, long term. You want to avoid these bouncing around between different tools all the time. The farmer is not interested in that.
Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Victor. And thanks, everyone. We're at the top of the hour here, so unfortunately, we won't be able to get to all of your questions now, but please be on the lookout. We'll try and get back to you in email. I'll turn it back over to you, Sid, for some closing remarks, and have a great day.
Caleb, thank you. Thank you to all the participants today. Thank you to our presenters. Very excited to share this information. And again, just to reiterate, feel free to contact me directly with any questions that you have coming away from this, how you can become a member, how you can participate, if you have an idea for a working group, and if you would like to be in contact with any of our presenters directly. Certainly happy to facilitate that, because what I know is when we get more people in the ecosystem working together, we're going to have a really nice network effect that allows for really a more efficient data exchange between multiple parties and multiple participants. So again, we're looking forward to continuing on with this type of discussion. Again, if we can do working groups, BlockApps are very happy to help facilitate those working groups. And in fact, if we get an excellent use case out of those working groups, we would invite you specifically to come back in and be a participant at this event. So please join, please contact me. And with that, I wish you all a great day, a great week, and I appreciate your attention. Take care, and we will be happy to engage at whatever level your interests are. Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.